404 207 3060.
Making a difference in the community. WBOK 1230 AM. Here we go. The reality check on WBOK 1230 AM.
Whoa, now. Welcome to the show. It is the reality check for Thursday afternoon. Gerard Stevens with you. You done pulled your mic. What happened? Huh?
I didn't hear you. What you say?
No, I said you done pulled your mic. I saw you grab the mic. What happened?
Oh, no, I'm getting.
You good? All right. Today, another special day because
There we go.
we got a lot of stuff to talk about. Short time to talk about it in. And we told you Warren Riley was going to be here today. And Warren Riley is here to have some conversation. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, everyone.
How you doing?
I'm doing great.
Welcome.
Thank you.
And this is the big special time anyway because everybody want to know what happened during Katrina.
Mm-hmm.
And
Sure.
I like talking about policing anyway, but, you know, you always been, I think, accessible to this show, to this radio station,
Absolutely.
even when you were the chief.
Absolutely. I think I used to do your show, was it once a week?
Yeah. Once a week or once every 2 weeks, something like that.
Right.
But either way, you know, we got a chance to ask the questions, and you always answer the questions for us.
Sure.
During this time of the year, you know, do you have a lot of folks calling you up and saying, man, can you be on? Can you do this? Can you come to this show? Can you be on this television station? Does that happen?
Yeah, I have a few. I was on ESPN. That's probably 30, 40 days ago. They taped. It was with Ryan Clark from ESPN for 30 for 30. I think that was on. I was on. Mark Murray, I was on. A few other locals. I was only on for about 2 or 3 minutes talking about what happened in the lower Ninth Ward and the immediate aftermath of Hurricane Katrina. I've had a couple of other local stations that wanted to do interviews, but I chose not to. And I'm on a panel at Xavier University on Saturday, and I'm here with you today. And a couple of those documentaries that were on reached out to me more than a year and a half ago, and I chose not to be a part of it.
A lot of folks probably look at, you know, what happened during Katrina and said, we didn't get our just due. And I'm talking about the entire community didn't get our just due, especially when it was time to, you know, grab folks, help them, rescue them, or even after the storm, did we get our just due to bring New Orleans back to what it was? Someone speaking on that behalf, I'm going to ask you this question. You can say I'd rather not. Do you think that we're back to where we were completely as a city, even though it's 20 years?
Well, you know, if I look back 20 years ago and I would have looked, say, the few months after Katrina made landfall in 2005, and if I would have looked and projected 20 years ahead, I would think we will be much, much further ahead, much more advanced than we are now. I think it's with the amount of money that was funneled into New Orleans over the last 20 years, I would say. And then, you know, I became an executive with FEMA when I retired from NOPD. The number 2 person in FEMA recruited me because of how I conducted myself during Hurricane Katrina and the hurricane that was after that, which I think was Isaac. And I was recruited. I was an executive. I was in Chicago. I was a federal coordinating officer in 6 different states, and then ultimately transferred to Atlanta for 2 years as in the same position. And after living in Atlanta, living in Chicago, and then coming back home to New Orleans, I've got to say I was very disappointed.
Because you went to California too. Then.
I was living in Los Angeles for a little while as well.
So within the time period that you left here to come back to now, you were in Atlanta, Chicago,
and Los Angeles.
And
I was
Los
actually
Angeles.
commuting from Chicago to L.A. I was
Okay.
living in L.A. but working in Chicago.
And that was with the FEMA
I was with
organization.
FEMA,
So
correct.
during that time, because what I understand, I need you to correct me if I'm wrong, you were actually the coordinator for a bunch of, you don't really realize how many disasters or classified as disaster. What's that classification of disaster? Because we hear about all the great big floods that's happening, but it's a lot of other stuff that goes on where there's an area that's classified as a disaster. Am I wrong?
I mean, you have a number of disasters. You have obviously hurricanes, you have floods, you have straight line winds, you have snowstorms, some just flooding. In order for it has to reach a certain threshold, and that's based on a population times a percentage on whether or not the president of the United States will declare it as a presidentially declared disaster. So in my role as a federal coordinating officer, I was the lead federal official on presidentially declared disasters around the country.
But you never saw anything like Katrina.
No, I never handled anything like Katrina. We had some really bad stuff, but nothing to the level of Hurricane Katrina. No.
So let's go back. I'm going to jump back and forth a little bit between the two, because one of the things, too, that I wanted to talk to you about was being in the position of superintendent for a police organization. And when you're hearing all this, because you all get the information before we do. So you may have gotten that information that this is going to be a life-threatening type of disaster. What are you thinking that how are you going to tell your men and women?
Well, I mean, we really were alerted. We were paying attention 6 or 7 days out when the hurricane was still in the Caribbean outside of Florida. So we were kind of on a low-level alert, kind of paying attention. And that comes not only from the police chief, but from the mayor. It also comes from the governor. And so once it crossed Florida, and I think 3 people were killed in Florida, it got into the Gulf. Within a day, if not hours, it became a stronger hurricane, Category 3. They were projecting it to go to Alabama, then Mississippi, and then ultimately New Orleans. But by the time it was headed to New Orleans, it was a strong 3, possibly a 4. Then as it was approaching, they said it could be possibly a 5. And I never forget, Max Mayfield called the mayor. We were in a meeting. Max Mayfield, who was the director of the National Weather Service, contacted the mayor, and basically the mayor came back and said that New Orleans may be destroyed. And this might be 4 days out.
Destroyed?
Destroyed. And maybe not exactly that word, but it alluded to a catastrophic event would hit New Orleans that it would be difficult to recover from. And so that's when we really, once it got into the Gulf and it started building, that's when everybody got on alert. We canceled people's off days, furlough days. Everybody had to come to work. And the mayor started meeting with all the executive staffs. He started a little bit sooner, but him and Terry Everett, myself, and the general landowner was in. There were a number of calls to Governor Kathleen Blanco, and they were really trying to prepare for this. And then as it got closer, the storm got worse, right? And it was unpredictable. So yeah, we go to a high alert level. We try to, first responders certainly tell people to get out, their families and so forth.
Right.
The news media certainly were telling people to leave. I think the biggest problem was that we didn't call the mandatory evacuation earlier, but there are a number of things that go into that. And I talk about that in my book. I talk about everything I'm talking about in my book. But
and the name of your book is?
It's Inside the Eye, Hurricane Katrina.
Okay.
It's been out for about a year now. And so, there are people that are for mandatory evacuation for profit, and then there are people who are not for the mandatory evacuation being too soon because of profits. So anyway, the mayor had challenging decisions, but once that mandatory evacuation was called, I think it could have been called a day earlier, at least. And so that certainly caused that big contraflow issue and people getting out. But fortunately, the vast majority of people got out. The people that didn't get out were a handful that chose to stay. And then you had a lot of older people who didn't have family, didn't have transportation, didn't have a way to leave or a place to go.
Right.
And so if you're going to evacuate and you don't have family and you don't have a car, then you need money. For those people on low income, fixed income, a lot of them just had nowhere to go. So, and I believe a lot of those people became victims of the storm.
So part of that, and I put this in another perspective. So part of the storm issue wasn't necessarily that we couldn't get them out in time enough, but they had to make life-changing decisions by
Mhm.
saying we're gonna stay
Mhm.
because we ain't had nowhere to go and we couldn't get out anyway because we ain't had no money,
Right. Mhm.
poverty,
Yes.
and we saw that,
Mhm.
and even how it was judged, which really made me mad. The way that they would look at,
Mhm.
and I'm gonna just be honest with you, the way that they were looking at black people
Mhm.
who couldn't leave, had no
Mhm.
money, and had to go to either the Superdome or they stayed in their house,
Mhm.
compared to our white counterparts who did the same,
Mhm.
but they were out and weren't classified as looters,
Mhm.
but were classified as folks that were trying to survive.
Well, that's not completely accurate in this sense. There were white people who were poor who didn't get out.
Right.
There were white people who were looting. It wasn't in as large a number,
Hmm.
but there were white people that were found in their attics that couldn't leave,
Right.
that didn't leave, and so
Right.
forth. So so it wasn't the evacuation.
Didn't
For
have a
instance,
color. Evacuation didn't have a color.
absolutely not. And
Right.
Superdome didn't let you enter based on
Your
right.
race.
And there were a lot of Hispanic people, Asian people who were in line to get in a Superdome
Hmm.
at the last minute. When they realized, one, they didn't leave in time or they couldn't leave, and they realized they shouldn't stay in their homes. But Gerard, we found a lot of people in their attics months after Hurricane Katrina who had died who chose not to leave.
Wow.
Right. Who chose
That
not
had
to
to be
leave.
pretty gruesome in itself.
It is. It was very gruesome. I think as many as 2.5 years later, they found a few people still in the attic, bodies in the attic.
So let's go to the beginning of the storm. I think we just covered by notification who was out. Da, da, da.
Mhm.
Let's talk about Ray Nagin here
Mhm.
because you ended up having to be Ray Nagin's liaison, the person that he went to because you were in
Mhm.
charge of
Operations.
operations.
Mm-hmm.
How did that happen? What was it that you saw that Nagin was doing compared to any other time as far as coordinating, putting things in order, getting people out, having those conversations with the officials, state, local,
Mhm.
whoever?
Listen, Mary Ray Nagin
You can hear.
was
You can hear. Go ahead.
Mary Ray Nagin was absolutely um, one of the most composed, intelligent, strong leaders in a catastrophic event that I've ever seen. For a man who had no emergency management experience, and let's give credit to Terry Everett as well, who was over Homeland Security. Those two were extremely strong. They were calculating, they were smart, they were determined. Not only were they determined to save as many people and provide for as many people as they could, they were compassionate toward the first responders.
Mm-hmm.
They wanted to make sure fire, police, EMS, that all first responders were as safe as possible. Look, I commend his leadership. I think he was outstanding, and I would work for him in a minute, anytime.
And I'm looking at him and saying to myself, do you think he got a fair shot? Because I think that as a leader, he was the only person that really stood up and told
Mm-hmm.
the story to the officials when he did that radio interview
Mm-hmm.
and told those folks stop doing the photo ops.
Mm-hmm.
No more of those. No more press conferences. Get your butt down here and
Mm-hmm.
get my people out of that water.
Well, understand the information that the mayor was receiving was from first responders who were seeing people who had drowned, who were seeing senior citizens sitting out in 90+ degree heat for days who had died from dehydration, from the heat itself, and obviously their age was a part of it, because you're the leader of a city that is 83% underwater, no utilities,
Mhm.
no food, no electricity. How do you lead when you have nothing to lead with?
Right.
But ask for those people in a higher position to get down here and help and do something.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so you put yourself in that position as a leader. What else do you do when you don't have the resources? Everything's been cut off.
Mm-hmm.
So what do? You go to the governor, you go to the president, and you ask for help. I mean, that's all you can do.
Mm-hmm. Now there was a story. I don't know if you know about this story, so I'm gonna
Mm-hmm.
try to confirm it with you if it's right or wrong.
Mhm.
That there were just vehicles of ice, food, water, sitting on the outside of the line of Orleans Parish.
Mm-hmm.
Was that just sitting there?
You know, I heard rumors.
Did you hear that?
I heard rumors of it, and I heard rumors that it was being held up for some reason. Now, was it true? Absolutely, I don't know. I don't know if any
Well,
of
that's
that
what I was
true.
going to ask you, for what
Mhm.
reason.
I don't know if any of that was true.
Okay.
Hmm.
But you heard it.
I heard it. Yeah, I did.
I heard it too. I
Mhm.
mean, they were saying that they were just sitting in another parish.
Look, let me say, I never saw photographs of it. I never saw video of it. I never heard, the rumors were flying like crazy during the storm.
Mhm.
And when it goes from one person, by the time it gets to the 10th person, Lord only knows what really comes out.
If we go through Katrina and try to find out what still sticks in your mind today,
Hmm.
what is it? What I know it's probably plenty of stories, but
Yeah.
what is that one story
Hmm.
that you can't kick?
One story, it's one story, but it involves a few different things. It was the morning Katrina rolled in. The winds were actually 100 plus, and we were in headquarters. And somewhere around 4:30, 5:30, I woke up in my office, and I was sleeping on a cot, an army cot in my office at headquarters. And I got up, and I went to the window, and I had these five vertical windows that were probably 2 feet by 6 feet. And I went to the window to look out the window, and I could see confetti, what looked like confetti, garbage cans, tops, paper, whatever, flying,
Mm.
flying in the air. And I was on the 5th floor, and across the street on the top of a building was one of our antennas, and that antenna was probably 60 feet high, I'm guessing. And it was held down by cables. And the wind was blowing, and you could just see this tower swaying back and forth as the wind pushed it back and forth. The windows in my office began to vibrate, move back and forth, right? So I believed that a tornado was coming. So I go out in the hallway, and one of my staff members was already out. He said, everybody, get away from the windows, close your doors. And this is probably 3:30, 4:30 in the morning. So everybody goes out into the hallway. So while we're out there, so imagine seeing your windows vibrate and seeing this big tower with our cables for communication swaying back and forth. I won't ever forget that. And that particular tower did not go down.
Mhm.
Another radio tower on the top of the Energy Center did crash. It didn't crash, actually. Some sort of object sheared the fuel line to that tower,
Oh,
which
dang.
was our backup generator. And it sheared the fuel line, so the diesel was just dripping on the roof, right? So that tower gave way. The other one didn't. So a short time later, we go down to communications, and Andrea Skipper, Mary Knight, and a number of the dispatchers. And I go in, and it's probably 5 in the morning, and all of them are crying. The 911 operators are crying. The dispatchers are crying. And they are on the phone with people calling in for help. This is 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning. And I asked the supervisor, I'm like, what the hell is wrong? What are y'all crying about? What's going on? And all she said was, Chief, you got to listen in. So she gave me some headphones. I put the headphones on. All you could hear was women, men calling 911, calling our dispatchers. The water's up to my neck. My babies are drowning. Please help us. Please help us. My husband is, one lady screamed and shouted, my husband was just blown off the roof. He was trying to get on the roof because the house was flooding. And those calls were coming in one after the other after the other. And around our communication center, you could see every dispatcher crying, and they're pushing these pause buttons so that people could
Can't
hear
hear
them
them.
crying,
Right.
crying. And they're telling people, we're coming, we're coming, we're coming. Go to the highest place in your house. Bring a hammer, bring a crowbar, bring something to help you get through the roof, but get in your attic. And they're crying, and they're saying, we're coming. Just get us a safe place. We're coming, knowing we wouldn't be able to respond for a good 6 or 7 hours. So those things are haunting when I think about it, being in that communication center and hearing that. And then a short time later, when that lady said her husband was blown off the roof, our kids were blown off the roof, and then it went silent. So we believed she succumbed to whatever Mother Nature brought. And so we get on the radio to check with our commanders, and the lower Ninth Ward is where a lot of those calls came from. contacted Captain John Bryson, who was over the 5th District. They were actually hunkering down at St. Claude General Hospital. And we're checking in, and when I check in with John, John says, Chief, I just saw my first body. Looks like a black male. And then he says, it looks like 3 children are in the water that have drowned. So we just heard 5 or 10 minutes earlier about this lady saying her husband was blown off the roof, her daughter, her kids were drowning. So we can only think that that's what happened. So that's why I tell anybody, if it's a category 3, and it's going to be a 3 when it gets here, it could be a 4, it could be a 5. If you can leave, leave. It's not worth it. And if you ever heard those called, and when I say they were coming in by the dozens, we couldn't even answer all of them, you know, and these were people who decided to hunker down, and now they're terrified.
Jeez. And you couldn't go get them?
We couldn't. We wouldn't be able to go out for another 5 or 6 hours. So normally, if the winds aren't under 60 miles an hour, we're not going out. 60, 65, it'll blow over an SUV. It'll flip a car. The winds are still pretty strong. So, but another call was a guy that called 911, and we were listening in, and he said, man, all these houses around me are floating. All these houses are floating. And then a minute later, he said, wait a minute. No, this is my house that's floating.
Oh, he in the house.
He's in the house.
And the house came off of its
in the lower ninth ward. Because, you know, they're on those
they're raised up
on those pillars. And yes.
So his house was floating.
His house was floating.
Did he make it?
He actually did make it, because we ran into him at a gas station in the lower ninth ward a couple of days later. And we were talking to him, and he's like, man, he said, I was so scared. He said, my house just lifted up and started floating. Right? Ooh. Yeah. So I know he did make it. Yes.
Indeed. We got to take a break here. We'll take the break. We'll come back, have some more conversation. Here's some more. Chief Riley's in the building. We'll talk to him some more in just a minute. We'll invite your telephone calls too. 504-582-9422. More coming up. Real issues, real talk, real solutions. Miss an episode of The Reality Check? You can catch every episode anytime. Search WBOK Media on your favorite podcast app to tap the bold commentary, real-time reactions, and powerful perspectives from the people and leaders shaping our city. Download, share, and rate it 5 stars, because the real ones always stay informed.
Welcome to Chemical of the Month by the community scientists at Rise St. James. This month, we spotlight phthalates, chemicals added to plastics, especially PVC, to make them more flexible and durable. But there's more. Research shows phthalates may disrupt hormones, affect reproductive health, and contribute to environmental pollution impacting our communities. Join us as we explore how these additives shape our everyday lives and the world around us. For more details, visit risestjames.org. Empower your knowledge with Rise.
Hi, this is Cary Grant. Let's elevate every Tuesday through Thursday from 6 to 7 p.m. as we discuss the community, the country, and the world, from politics to current events and sports. We look forward to your input and continuing the quality programming on your community station, WBOK. Join us every Tuesday through Thursday, 6 to 7 p.m. on Elevated Conversations, the Arnie and Cary Show.
Marking 20 years since Hurricane Katrina.
Tell me, what would happen if today was the last time you heard that drum beat or that trumpet blow? For those who struggle to get out and those who still struggle to get back, you are welcome to this place called home. If you remember, come home.
Share your story. Support the work. August 24th through 31st. A series of cultural, educational, and healing events. Visit katrina20.org to learn more.
WBOK. Listen now on WBOK1230.com.
Here we go. The Reality Check on WBOK 1230 AM.
All right, folks, welcome back. Welcome back. Gerard Stevens with you on the Reality Check Thursday. Our guest today, former chief of New Orleans Police Department, Chief Warren Riley, in the building. Thanks again for agreeing to come and have these conversations. A lot of these stories, man, you know, they are unbelievable because you never think about anything of this magnitude, but you lived it.
Truly, yes.
One of the questions that's come up too is like, who was the chief during this time of all this? I guess all of this hectic stuff going on. Was it you or was it Compass?
So when Hurricane Katrina arrived in the days leading up, Eddie Campos was the chief, you know. And let me say this about Eddie. Eddie's a nice guy. He's a good guy. And how he's dealing with this situation, everybody deals with things differently, right? So, look, I like Eddie. I think he's a good guy. And I just want to say that because people have told me some things that he may have said yesterday, but I'm not going to get into that. But I think he's a good guy. So Eddie Campos was a police chief. And somewhere around 2 weeks after, maybe probably 14 days, 15 days after, something like that, I got a call from Mayor Nagin asking me to meet him at the Hyde Regency on whatever, the 12th floor or whatever. When I got there, it was Mayor Nagin. I think Terry Everett was there.
Now, Terry Everett was head of what?
Terry Everett was the director of Homeland Security.
Okay.
Right? And I think Thad Allen, the person over the Coast Guard, was there. General Landrenew, I believe, was there from, and I don't know if General Honore was in that meeting or not. I'm not sure. But I was called in, and when I went in, the mayor said, I need you to take over NOPD. You're number 2, right? Now, many months earlier, the mayor told me that if he needed to make a change, he needed me to take over. I'm just putting it out there. This was months before Hurricane Katrina, right? Because I was number 2. He liked what I was doing. He said if he needed to make a change, right? So this is before Hurricane Katrina. That as number 2, he needed me to be ready to step up. I said, no problem. That was that. So that's how I learned that I was going to be the interim superintendent. Nothing was mentioned about Eddie Campos in that particular meeting. So the next morning, Eddie came to my cabin on the ship. We were on the ship, and he told me that he had been fired and that I was going to be the new superintendent. He didn't say he did. Yeah, he did say he was going to be fired. He was fired, and I was going to be the superintendent. I said, "What are you talking about?" And I didn't expect this to happen like that quickly, right? But so I had a little bit of a warning, and then Eddie came in and told me himself that he was being let go, and I was going to be the superintendent. And Eddie left out of my office, and then I got another call to come back and meet with the mayor, and the mayor gave me more specifics. You know, he basically said, "You're here. I like what you're doing. You're leading. Men respect you. You're all over the place. I need you to take over." And that's kind of how it happened. And look, I'm the number 2 guy. What was I supposed to say? Eddie's my friend. That's my job as number 2. If number 1 goes down, number 2 steps up. That's in any organization.
Right.
It wasn't anything personal. I certainly wasn't going to say no.
So if you did, I mean, was that malfeasance?
If I said no,
I ain't gonna do it.
No,
that's Eddie's my friend.
No, that mean I would be stupid as all outdoors.
Well, I mean, you know,
I'm being polite.
I'm trying to figure out if you did say that, you know, would that have gone against your record?
Well, that was never going to be a question.
Okay.
So
I'm gonna leave it alone.
All right.
So that was another decision that you made. That was a decision that was made, and that you had to step up. You were going to step up.
And let me just, for the record, because this is in my book as well. Several months earlier at a coffee shop on Frenchman Street, the mayor called me to a meeting, and he told me he liked the way I handled myself because I was in meetings with him on a regular basis. He liked my professionalism and so forth. And he said, I may be making a change. I'm not sure when. So the mayor had been contemplating it for a while for a number of reasons, right? So it wasn't just the hurricane, but I think that was where the mayor finally decided this is the time. And I won't go there. Are a lot of details I could talk about, but I'm certainly not going to do that.
Talk about the details. I'm sorry, Brown. Don't give me that look. I was trying to get the scoop, Ron. Am I wrong? I'm trying to figure out what's wrong. No. In all seriousness and all due respect to Eddie as well, because I want to make sure that we are just giving some of the facts, because I did hear some things on earlier this week that I'm not going to really discuss in there, because I'm not going to be that messy guy to say, well, what you think about what Eddie said?
Really?
Yeah, I'm not going to do that. Listen, Eddie, my friend too, and just like you, Eddie, my friend too. But I hate to see that it became a little.
Look, Eddie and I competed throughout our careers. We were always on the top of the sergeant's list, the lieutenant's list, the captain, every promotional list. We were always in the top group. So we always competed, right? When he was selected as superintendent, I didn't particularly.
I was gonna say that's him coming through the door. Right?
I didn't particularly think he was a better choice than me, but I accepted that.
Okay.
Because that's business, right? So I ultimately was a chief anyway. Under Eddie, the mayor made sure that I was a chief because he respected me. I was in the final four for that chief's position. And so when Eddie was promoted to superintendent, the mayor made sure that I was in that group of top officials because he respected me. And so, listen, we all know in business there is always challenges and nothing is guaranteed, right? And look, I don't want to get off subject. I have had my challenges coming back to this city and coming back for a position that somebody promised me, and then suddenly it didn't happen.
You talking about the mayor now? Yeah,
so that happens. So that's business. Do I hate her? No, right? I feel sorry for her family, but that's I'm not being honest with you. But go ahead.
I was getting ready to. I had to come back. Because I'm getting ready to say to the audience that's listening right now, he lied.
Do I need to cut on the bleep button?
No.
All right. I'm just making sure.
But I'm thinking something though. If you look at your career here, abroad, your experience, if you had to make a judgment on how they treated you away compared to here, what would you say?
The public process, what's put out there away and here, had I had an inkling, I probably would have stayed away.
Really?
Absolutely. Look, I love New Orleans, and that's why I came back. I was gone away 7 or 8 years. Love New Orleans, and the opportunity to come back was a great opportunity. And listen, I was bringing back international experience. I worked in Prague. I sat on a board in Prague. I was a lead law enforcement official after the Haiti earthquake, right? I worked in Australia. So I had international experience, national experience. I directed, as the lead federal official, 17 presidentially declared disasters around the United States, right? From floods to snowstorms to whatever. And tornadoes. So I'm bringing back a wealth of experience, way more than what I left here with, to bring back to this city, which I think could have helped the city as it related to overall policing and emergency management, disaster management.
So the question I have with you with that one, I don't know how you're going to answer this one, but I know you're going to try to do it diplomatically. When you walked out to be introduced as the head of New Homeland Security, what happened?
Well, I was asked to come in with all the executives, the new executives, and
because you really never explained.
And I'm not going to go into too much detail now.
I'll tell all the details.
Well, and all I can tell you is I came in. My daughter came in. We came in for me to be sworn in, and somebody got a call saying, "I'm putting this on pause." We're at the banquet after the swearing in. My daughter, myself, some friends, and all I can tell you is that.
But you were in the public eye then.
Yeah, it already had been put out there, right?
Right.
So, but when you're in a position, and all I can say is that it wasn't. I don't think it was her decision, and I'll just say that it wasn't. She really wanted me here, right? She asked me to come here. She really wanted me to hear. So I don't totally hold that against her. But my deal was with her, not anybody else. And her and Bob Tucker told me who those people were. I won't mention it, but there are folks that didn't they want me here.
Because I'll never forget on the news, it was Travis Mackle standing at the end of an escalator, waiting for her to go to a meeting or waiting for her to go up that escalator. And she walked up and he asked her, is it true that Warren Riley is one of the finalists for Homeland Security? And she looked dead at him and said, yes. What better person can we have? Can you name one? And he couldn't. And she said, again, yes. She didn't hide it.
Because she had the full scope of not only my time in New Orleans, but my 8 years working internationally and nationally, right? She knew the experience that I had. She knew what I could bring to the city, right? And so whoever didn't want me here, they didn't know about my other experience. Whatever their reason against me was, probably, who knows what it was, you know? And if I told you those people's names, you'd be like, wow, okay. But I'm not going to get into
They're pretty big. I know them. I heard the story already.
You know,
I was just asking so that my audience would hear.
Right.
Just thinking that you tell the name.
Right.
You ain't gonna tell the names?
No.
Tell the names, man.
That's 8 years ago.
You let it go?
Maybe when I retire my next book, I'll talk about that.
So the question is, have you let that go?
Oh yeah, definitely.
You did.
What I'm gonna do? I can't hang on to it. It's not gonna do me any good.
Okay. All right, we'll come back with some more in a minute, y'all. More in just a minute. We'll take a minute here and do some news. We'll come right back. Everybody hold tight.
From the campus of Xavier University, WBOK Go and Equity Media Station.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. Minneapolis this morning after a school shooting killed 2 children and wounded 17. Black Congressman Maxwell Frost says the nation is growing numb to such tragedies.
If God forbid your child died tomorrow, the most likely reason would be because of bullets.
Police say the 23-year-old shooter left a manifesto before killing himself, and the FBI calls it a hate crime and domestic terrorism. Rapper Kanye West says his Instagram was hacked after launching his Yeezy Money crypto coin. He clarified his project is Yeezy Money, not the fake Yeezy token account his page followed. And Black Congressman Kwesi Mfume is blasting Doge for mishandling Social Security data, saying President Trump's actions put Americans' privacy at risk. He says the agency exposed info on over 300 million people to a private entity without consent and vows to demand answers. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Here we go. The reality check on WBOK 1230 AM.
All right, folks, welcome back. Welcome back. Gerard Stevens with you. Thursday afternoon, former chief of NOP, Warren Riley is in the building. I got to tell you this too, there, Chief, but you're not only just former chief, but you also are author now. So,
Yes,
yes. Name of your book?
The name of my book is Hurricane Katrina, Inside the Eye. Inside the Eye, Hurricane Katrina is told by me, and it focuses on the 3 to 4 days prior to Katrina, when we first learned it was coming in, our preparation, the police, the politics, and then goes to 21 days past when the lights finally came back on in the city. So all between that, it talks about policing, politics, citizens. I interviewed probably 25 people. A lot of things. One thing that goes missing is they don't talk about. I did interview Arthel Neville, but she's the one that's a singer, right? Who's the singer? Which one is the
That's
Neville's?
not Arthel.
No, the singer. I'm sorry, the one that's the singer. She saw alligators and some other people. People don't talk about that, but we did have a few people that were attacked by alligators and eaten by alligators by eyewitnesses.
That were eaten.
Yes, absolutely, yes.
People?
And I
mean,
have.
you saw it?
No, I have eyewitnesses that I interviewed, and they were on their balcony in the lower Ninth Ward when they saw that. So obviously, half of Bayou Sauvage was blown into the lower Ninth Ward. So things like that. But look, it took me probably. I started researching in 2007, and then I didn't start writing until around 2019, and I finished at the end of 23. And look, it is a very compelling book. You will cry, you will be emotional, and it will bring about some things that you're not aware of. but it was a tough time for the city.
One of the questions I had about that was the fact that there were so many folks that said they heard that big kaboom the day of the flood, not the day of the storm, but the day of the flood, because we survived Hurricane Katrina. We just didn't survive the flood. So a lot of folks were telling me that they think that the levees were blown up. Is that
Katrina?
Yeah.
No, because when that kaboom happened, from my recollection, I was under the River Center, where the casino is. I was under that overhang by the casino, and the Cajun Navy had just arrived. And I really didn't know who the Cajun Navy was. All I saw was these people pulling up, and they had dogs, and some of them had coonskin caps on, and they looked like they were hunters and woodsmen. But they came, and it was like 50 cars with dogs and boats and everything. And they were lined up outside of the Caesars. And somebody told me who they were, and I went out to meet the guy that was leading them. And we heard that kaboom. And so that was like 4 days later. That kaboom that I heard was 4 days later after the city had started flooding. So I don't think anybody blew up.
You don't think
I don't think they did.
But there were a whole lot, and I got to ask you this. I know you can't talk about a lot of it because of the fact that it was illegal stuff, but I got to ask. There were so many other things that happened during or after Katrina. I named a couple of them. And I'm not looking for you to tell me from one case to another, from the beginning to the end. But those officers that were blamed for a lot of the killings, other stuff with Dan Zinger, what do you say to those folks about those officers? Not you, because you were not put in any precarious situation at all. But what do you say about them?
Well, Gerard, I mean, I think it's a great question, but my answer to that is all gone through the adjudication process. What has happened, and that's all I can say. Was all of it done? Were the outcomes how they all should have been? I don't know, but I'm not going to comment on something from 20 years ago that's already been adjudicated in court.
Because it was malicious. Would you say it was malicious?
Was what malicious?
What happened with I mean, I can name some of them, but I'm not want to get into that.
All I can tell you that the actions were inexcusable in so many ways, and I'll leave it at that.
Okay, all right. When we talk about the flooding of New Orleans, there was a group that came from, was it Denmark, or where did they come from? Because they ended up using terminology that made me go,
to help. I think it was
they dewatered.
Yeah, I think they were from Denmark. I believe that was them. They were from Denmark. I believe that's a correct.
How do you dewater the city? You had to be somewhere involved in that part.
No, I was not. I heard about them. I heard they were working on dewatering the city, and all I know is a few days later, the water had gone down significantly. But did I ever see them in action or where they were working? I simply heard about them.
I remember
it may have been Denmark and Germany.
I remember talking to my friend, and I saw this stare. It looked like all y'all had that stare, and it was Lawrence Weathersby, Pastor Lawrence Weathersby, who was at that time one of your chief deputies.
We were together 24/7, probably for the first 7-8 days. We were constantly together, side by side.
And now, I'll never forget. He was talking to me about what they were doing on the boats, and he talked about going down a street that you had just driven down a week ago. And as you're driving down the street, you're looking around, and then the next thing you're on the boat going down that street. And he said, gee, it was kind of bad having those boats in different neighborhoods, and all you hear is boom on the side of them, boom on the side of it, boom on the side of it.
Bumping
I was like, well,
bodies.
what is that? Bodies.
Bumping into bodies in the water, especially at night when you really couldn't see. Yes, it happened.
Really?
Yeah, it happened. It happened.
And then you tie. Some of them had to tie a rope around the leg, around the toe or foot or whatever it is, and then try to find the nearest stop sign. so that you could tie it so that it stopped floating around?
You know, there may have been people that I didn't witness that. I did see some bodies that were put in places where they tried to secure them so they wouldn't float. I saw a few of them, but I wasn't a part of that. I don't know who, in fact, did that. I don't know if that was citizens. I don't know if that was the police. I know 4 or 5 days later, National Guard came in and they started recovering bodies, right? They started on the West Bank, because on the West Bank, they recovered bodies with bullet holes, and that were ultimately tied into that gentleman in Algiers Point who was shooting black people for coming through the neighborhood when they were trying to get to the Algiers Ferry. I forgot his name. He did so many years in jail, and he died in prison maybe 3 years ago.
I'll never forget when we were doing interviews. What was this? When we were in Gentilly. You came to do your radio day that day, and we were standing in the control room looking at YouTube videos because somebody had shot those folks, those people that weren't from here, but were talking about them going hunting for black people, and that was them in Algiers Point. And you were like, "What in the world?" And I think you had just called like the crew of folks that were over on the West Bank to try to find out who they were.
You know, and we did. You know, 2 officers went to check on that, and they reported back that they're out there with assault rifles and machine guns, and they're on the porch, and they're walking around, and they blocked the street off like it was a port. And so we were having a meeting at Harris, under the overhang at Harris, and I saw Jim Bernazani, who was the director of the FBI at the time, who was really a great guy, and I told him about it, and he handled that. I can tell you that he and his people, because our SWAT team, our tactical teams were still rescuing people.
Really?
They were in boats. They were still rescuing people. And so I told Jim Bernazani about it, and he said he'd take care of it. And I never worried about it again. All I know is shortly that situation was resolved.
I forgot the young man's name, but he went on YouTube and is telling everybody all we were trying to do was get to the other side.
Yeah. I had officers report to me that citizens were saying they were just going through the community to get to because they heard that the National Guard had brought food over by the ferry, had brought food, and they were going to have boats or something. And they were just trying to get to that ferry landing. So they had to go through that neighborhood. And some folks who had bad intentions didn't want, I guess they thought they were protecting their property, but they were in fact violating people of their civil rights, you know, and they apparently did some violent things. One person did go to jail for it. And he went to jail because I believe his sister-in-law told us, or the FBI, that he was the one shooting people in that neighborhood.
And he had cancer and he died.
He died in prison. I don't know what he died
He had
from.
cancer.
He died in prison.
I remember when they put it in the paper that he had been arrested.
Right.
And then the other guy who was actually riding around Algiers Point, I forgot his name, but he wasn't even from the United States. And he got caught, and they deported him.
Okay, I'm not familiar with that one.
I think he was from like Austria or something. I forgot exactly what it was.
Don't know.
But he was riding around in one of Blaine Kern's tractors, just shooting people. I was like, vigilantes?
You know, vigilante, mental illness, you know, a lot of that was vigilante. Some of it was mental illness that kicked in, you know, and if you have a mental illness and you're going through that, you're probably 10 times more dangerous. I mean, I'm just throwing 10 times out there. But, yeah, there was some horrific things that happened. Some of it we will never know.
Well, let me see if you know this, because I think this was before you were chief, but I'm not certain. Let me make sure that you knew about this, because it was told by Nagin at that time for people to get on the bridge and leave and go across the river. And there was a contingent of Gretna, JP, and somebody else blocking those folks from going across the river.
There were three things that just absolutely blew my mind. So we got reports first that Jefferson Parish, whether it was the police department, sanitation, whomever, had blocked Airline Highway with heavy equipment. So we drove out there to see. It was tractors and trucks and stuff blocking Airline Highway, blocking to make sure you could not leave New Orleans to go into Jefferson Parish. That is an absolute fact because I saw it with myself. I saw it myself. And then at St. Bernard, they took crushed cars and stacked them up at the St. Bernard line.
Going to past Jackson Barracks.
To stop, I'm assuming, to stop. I'm sure it wasn't to stop people from St. Bernard from leaving. So
people leaving here to go.
And then we get received. Now, that I saw myself. I saw because I went out there because I couldn't believe it, to see it. They had crushed cars that were blocking. What's the street when you go from St. Claude into Chalmette, into St. Bernard. But anyway, they had crushed cars blocking the highway, so you couldn't go in. They had heavy equipment, trucks, tractors, backhoes, all kind of heavy equipment blocking Airline Highway. And then in Gretna, you had 2 or 3 officers armed that were stopping people from going into Gretna. That was early. That was the first week or so. I remember telling Chief Compass, and I know he was meeting with
and how
all
are
of the
people
sheriffs.
supposed to get out?
I don't know. But I can tell you, me and my staff, we drove into Gretna as well. Now, in JP and St. Bernard, there were no deputies there. It was just blocked. You couldn't go by. So in Gretna, when we pulled up and identified ourselves, they immediately let us through, and we asked them what they were doing, and they said we were doing our job. So I did notify Chief Compass. I believe that he met with all of the sheriffs from those parishes, and I believe they had a meeting. I think they met on the top of the Mississippi River Bridge. That's all I know. And then that situation was resolved.
Well, why would you even do that? I mean, it's like, you're violating people's right to move forward or something to get out.
You know why it was done.
Yeah.
Why was it done?
Because of who they were? I'm going to leave it at that. I'm going to put you in that situation because that'll be what makes the news tonight and tomorrow. You understand. So, no, don't say nothing else about that one. But I was thinking to myself, as I continuously heard those people up until today talking about we couldn't get across the river because they had blocked off, and police officers that weren't in the jurisdiction of New Orleans were blocking off. Because no matter how we look at it, the truth is that the GNO is in New Orleans jurisdiction. So how did they take that jurisdiction from the NOPD and just make it a sense? Was that because we were under some type of martial law or something?
No, they were blocking, but they were blocking in their parishes. They weren't in Orleans Parish. They were blocking as you enter the other parishes.
Really?
Yeah.
Because I keep hearing that they were in Orleans Parish at the top of the bridge.
No, they were not at the top of the bridge. They were when we drove there, it was when you get off the bridge and you start driving into Gretna. They were in Gretna. They were not on.
So they were not.
Not what I saw. No.
Did you know about the young man that was saving folks in Algiers by hot wiring a yellow school bus?
We stopped him. Myself and Chief Weathersby. When we talk about this story now, we talk about ourselves as being Buck and the Preacher because he's a preacher. So we stopped that yellow bus. We saw him driving that yellow bus from across the river. We stopped the guy, a young black guy, might have been 23, 24. And we pulled over and we listened. We went on a bus. We did have our guns drawn because we didn't know what was going on. We just knew that to see that yellow school bus with nobody on it was kind of strange. And so we asked him what he was doing. He said, I'm going to be honest, I'm going to get my family. He said, I'm going to get my family. I'm going to get my friends. I'm getting out of here. And we gave him his blessings and let him go. We let him go.
Because it was told that later on that he got stopped. I don't know if that when he got into Texas, because I think they went to Houston.
I think he got stopped after he picked up his family members or whomever he picked up.
And arrested.
For the bus.
Yeah.
Probably so. But he did steal the bus.
He did steal the bus, but I mean, come on, that's life or death.
I'm sure those charges were probably dropped. When the circumstances were revealed, I'm sure they probably did. Like I got calls from police departments saying, Chief, they call Noble, they call the International Association of Chiefs of Police, they got my cell number. I was getting phone calls Chief, we just stopped 4 of your officers in Arkansas in a NOPD car. We just stopped 4 officers, 2 cars and 4 officers in Houston. They were fleeing. Those cops were abandoning the city, and they were stopped, and I was getting these calls, and I got a dozen of those calls. And I told them, get their identification, take their police ID, take their information, and please take the cars from them and let them go. We'll deal with them later, right? And that's how.
So they abandoned the city.
They abandoned the city.
Is that like malfeasance?
It is, of course, it is. Right?
Did you have like some type of? And I know you didn't do it right then and there, but you had to have some type of discipline for that.
Yeah. So months later, we convened a committee which involved 2 retired inspector generals from the federal government and some of our command staff. I believe we had 144 hearings, and we set up a schedule. Anyone who had abandoned the city for more than 14 days were going to be terminated, right? So we ended up terminating about 90 officers. If you were gone between 11 and 14 days, you got a 30-day suspension. And then we brought it down from there, where it was from, 7 to 10 days, you got a 30-day suspension. And if it was under so many days, you got a 10. So everyone was disciplined. We could not afford to fire everybody. So we set up a schedule, because we would have probably fired close to 170 people.
So the numbers is 170 people.
Somewhere around there.
So you know that, everybody else hyped up the numbers because they were like, it was like 500 police officers.
No, it wasn't 500 police officers. Not at all. Now, we may have missed a few. And look, of those hearings, there was only one person found not guilty of abandoning the city, and that was an officer. He was a young officer. His wife was pregnant, and he left. And his commander told him he could leave, but then his commander denied telling him he could leave. Oh, wow. Right? So we found out that his wife was, in fact, pregnant. She was like 8.5 months pregnant. And he did the right thing. He did ask his commander. His commander denied it, but that person was exonerated. He did not get any time.
All right. We got to take another break, but when I come back, I got a Hurricane Katrina story about you. You don't know that I'm going to tell.
Oh, okay.
Because I was there, so I know it. I'm gonna speak about it.
Okay.
I'm gonna leave when after I talk about it, because I don't want to be fighting you up in here. You got your stuff on you, because I don't want to be shot or nothing. But I'm gonna tell a story about you in a minute. All right, more coming up, y'all. Everybody hold tight.
This is the Bloomberg Black Business Beat, brought to you by Lowe's.com. Code with Clossie is a nonprofit organization launched to help young women and non-binary teens break into coding. But as artificial intelligence advances, it could defeat the purpose of a coding bootcamp like Code with Clossie. Osiami Okparia is CEO of Code with Clossie, and she told Bloomberg at a recent event that her initiative doesn't see itself as just teaching people how to code.
We're actually thinking more broadly than actually time spent hands on keyboard producing code. There is a lot that you can learn from a set of skills that are durable and transferable when you learn to code. You're learning computational thinking. You're learning a way of solving problems, decomposing them. These are all skills that we believe are transferable to problem solving in any domain.
Code with Clossie is helping young women from all backgrounds get into fields where diversity is lacking. I'm Bloomberg's Justin Milliner on the Black Business Beat.
Lowe's knows tough jobs call for tougher tools. The new DeWalt Elite Series power tool accessories are built to last for the pro who doesn't stop. With precision fitment, durability, and impact resistance, finishing jobs faster has never been easier. Shop the new DeWalt Elite Series at an everyday low price exclusively at Lowe's. We help, you save.
Staples presents That Was Easy.
Seems like back to school happens earlier each year.
First day of school coming in hot.
And this year, my kids had massive supply lists.
Folders, notebooks, and pens. Oh, the humanity.
But Staples had everything I needed, with some items just 25 cents.
Watch the small print.
No. My back to school budget was saved by Staples Easy Button.
Everything for school, in stock and as low as 25 cents. Staples.
That was easy.
In store, online, and on the app. Ends 9/13 while supplies last.
That's right.
It's party time each and every Sunday night at 7 p.m. on WBOK. It's the Throwback Throwdown with DJ Wick as he brings you the best in old school from the 70s, 80s, 90s, and the early 2Ks. Plus, the party goes to another level at 9 p.m. with the Throwback Throwdown Party Mix to round out the night. It's the Throwback Throwdown Sunday nights at 7 p.m. on WBOK and on the World Wide Web at WBOK1230.com.
The New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Foundation is the nonprofit organization that owns the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Festival presented by Shell. With the funds generated from Jazz Fest, the foundation invests in Louisiana companies through economic development, cultural enrichment, and free educational programs. To learn more about what the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Foundation does, please visit www.jazzandheritage.org.
Tired of the impersonal, one-size-fit-all style of banking? You deserve a bank that delivers exceptional service and personalized attention to your needs. That's the Home Bank Standard. Since 1908, Home Bank has been a trusted financial partner for businesses and families because we go the extra mile to help you reach your goals. See for yourself why Home Bank is good for business, good for life. Stop by any New Orleans area location or find out more at home24bank.com. Home Bank, member FDIC.
Fresh produce, local flavor, and a healthy you. New Orleans East Hospital is hosting a farmers market the last Wednesday of every month from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. Join us in the parking lot across from the main entrance. Support local farmers and your wellness. We'll see you there.
Making a difference in the community. WBOK 1230 AM. Here we go. The reality check on WBOK 1230 AM.
All right, folks, welcome back. Welcome back. Warren's coming right back in just a minute to talk with us. But I wanted to make sure that we talked about one story. And that story, I think it has a whole bunch of meaning because I had something to do with it. But when I say that I had something to do with it, I want to make sure that everybody knows, no, I didn't have anything to do with it in the sense that I had any change of the effect. But I learned of this story from the young man that it happened to. How about that? Is that a good way to put it? I got a chance to meet this young man several years ago, and to this day, he continuously keeps in touch. What do you mean? This is in 2009 when there was a brawl that happened at the Beach Corner Bar and Grill. Many folks may not have been aware during the time that it happened, but I had an opportunity to talk to this young man, and I interviewed him. His name is Lamont. And I'm talking about you again.
Uh-huh.
So I had the opportunity to talk to this young man, Lamont, and he told me about what happened at the Beach Corner.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, how you know that happened? He said, because I was the guy that I had a run-in with some NOPD officers. And I told him, I was like, man, that's something, da-da-da-da. I said, I just happen to know the police chief. Do you think that he knows about it? He said, no. Because they're trying to keep this real interesting and real quiet. But he came and did the interview that day on the radio, and I had no idea how many folks were going to be listening that morning. And then after he said, okay, good, I'm getting ready to sign off, and we all walked out, I walked him to the car. I was like, man, thank you for coming to tell that, da-da-da. And then I noticed there was an unmarked vehicle sitting, like, not directly behind him, but, you know, a couple of spaces down the street. So when he pulled off, they pulled off too. So I called him on the phone and said, watch out, dude, there's somebody following you. And he said they pulled him over and told him that, you know, we know who you are and we know where you work. So you might want to, you know, watch how you're on the radio. I was like, yeah, I know I'm getting ready to call you and talk to you. And at that point in time, you and I had the conversation. I was trying to fill you in on it. And I asked you myself, I said, would you meet with him? I can't send this to nobody else.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want none of your deputy chiefs, nobody. I want you to meet with him. So we set up a meeting. You remember all of this, but we set up a meeting, me, you, and Lamont. And we ended up in a parking lot, which was the old Walgreens, right there on the corner of Canal and what is that? It was on. It used to be the Canal.
Claiborne.
Yeah. And so we all met in the parking lot, me, you, and him. And he told you the story, and you were like, "What?" And I didn't know at that point in time that there was so much other stuff that was going through. And I don't know if you handled the investigation, but you promised Lamont that you were going to look into it and let there be an investigation. And you did. And the next thing I know, police officers that were involved in that were getting fired. And he was okay, but I mean, they beat the crap out of him and took him and I think another RTA streetcar driver to jail. And that ended up being a part of, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, that ended up being a part of the consent decree. One of the reasons why we ended up in it.
Oh, I don't remember all of the details. I do remember us kind of meetings, But look, I was a very serious police chief. I fired more police officers than any police chief in the history of New Orleans, right? So some people allow people to get away with stuff because they like them, right? If you're a friend or not, if you did not follow the rules and you embarrassed this police department, you disrespected a citizen, you were going to suffer the consequences because you weren't going to disrespect the citizenry or embarrass the police department. Now, whether that was suspension or termination, it all depends on the severity of the situation. So, and I didn't have a problem with it because we're sworn to do a particular thing, and one is not to violate people's rights and things like that. So I took those things very, very seriously. And then, I worked in internal affairs for 5 years, so I saw a lot that officers were doing. And look, I love the majority of the men and women who I met through my career with NOPD, but we had some little cliques and clans that were in there doing stuff. You had people that thought it was 1820, right? That were doing things. And so my goal was to eliminate some of that, and I did. So there were a lot of folks that didn't particularly like me, but it was the right thing to do.
What do you think today, and I know you're gonna answer this question, with the number of police officers we don't have and where it all started?
Well, it started, listen, let me just say this. When I left the police department, we had 1,595 officers. We had an academy class of 55. Under my leadership, the police department went down under 1,200 officers after Katrina. Understand, Houston, Atlanta, Memphis, even a couple of our former police chiefs were recruiting our officers from us during our worst time after Katrina. And a lot of them were leaving because their wives were nurses or school teachers or whatever, and they left to get jobs. So some of them legitimately left, but we had other agencies that were recruiting our people. So we had to find a way to stop that. Under Mayor Ray Nagin, we were the best paid police department NOPD ever had. We were right there with the state police, right? And Mayor Nagin always looked out for first responders. He always did. So we started a recruiting campaign with the New Orleans Police and Justice Foundation. Sandy Shieldstone, Maggie Shieldstone's wife, was one who coordinated a lot of our recruitment. And it worked because we lost a lot of officers. But we had officers leaving other parishes and coming from other states to join NOPD when I was a superintendent. And we built it up. So where did it start? It started with that following administration.
Mitch Landry.
That following administration.
Mitch Landry.
Who decided that NOPD only needed 1,200 officers.
You talking about Mitch Landry?
That following administration.
Come on, say what it is.
That only needed 12. They sent, actually, Michael Cowan from Loyola came to me and asked me my thoughts on it. I said, listen, if New Orleans population rebuilds, you're going to need those 1,500 or 1,600 officers, right? He said they wanted to go down to 1,200. I said, you need to let a natural attrition happen until you get to 14 and try to hold on and see what the population looks like. We don't know who's coming back, what's going to happen. they decided they want to bring it down under 1,200. And if you talk to any cop on the street today, they don't have 900 policemen. So
Today, they do not have 900.
Correct. Now the population is going down, right? Thank God for Troop NOLA.
Because there has been some
Mm-hmm.
I think, taking the helm of getting those folks off the street that are not, they don't have to go under the consent decree. So they have the ability to do some things that maybe the NOPD don't have or still does not have because of the consent decree.
Well, I mean, obviously, I can't really give you my opinion on that. Listen, well, I can't say it because the person's running for office. I don't know if I can say it or not, but was responsible for a lot of the crime reduction. Troop NOLA has been responsible for a lot of the crime reduction. Chief Kirkpatrick is a super nice lady. She inherited a crime plan that was in fact working, right? So give all of them credit because the crime has gone down, but the crime has also gone down on a national level, right? On a national level. So, you know, look, I don't live in New Orleans anymore, right? I love New Orleans, but I don't live in the city anymore.
But I really wanted you to address that administration because he stood up in front of the whole world and said to the police that we are talking about right now, NOPD, that New Orleans had the worst police department in the country. Am I lying?
You're correct. And I did a show with Norman Robinson, and he interviewed me about that, and I told him that person was not telling the truth. I said that back then.
I mean, and that had to be offensive to every man and woman that put their life on the line.
And when you do that kind of stuff, that
and
makes
the attrition, didn't the attrition rate start going up then?
The attrition rate started going up, the morale started going down, and people stopped doing their jobs because they feel unappreciated.
Because I never forget when Michael from Panel explained it. And I was like, wait a minute, you're explaining it? He said, yeah. What's going to happen is we're not going to have enough police officers to fill in those that are turning in their weapon, turning in their credentials. And that was with Panel. And he was correct.
And listen, there are not enough officers, right? When I was superintendent, we were graduating 50, 55 people 2 to 3 times a year. They're graduating 8 and 12. I don't know how you build like that, right? But also, in today's society, who really wants to be the police?
Well, there was a point in time when we saw, and I don't know if it's still there, but police pretty much got a bad rap because it ended up being more of the on camera. We're gonna show what's going on now. Don't get me wrong. I'm not speaking on behalf of everybody because there were some bad apples, but that ain't every one of them, and it started messing with the ranks as far as who's coming in to come in and protect and serve.
Well, listen, you go through a background check. They do the best they can to identify, get people early, but there isn't any organization, whether it's police, judges, lawyers, doctors, radio hosts, that don't have some bad apples. Period. Period. It's that those individuals are out in the public, and the difference between now and 10 or 15 or 20 years ago is everybody has a camera and it's being captured more. It's not that it's increased. It's just those bad apples are being caught on camera more now.
Okay. All right, let's do this. Let's take Mr. Harold. Let's go to L.A. What you say? What you say, Mr. Harold?
Yeah, I'm in Pasadena right at the moment, but I came in on the conversation a little bit late. But it's good information and it's depressing information. And one thing I wanted to say is today, 70 years ago, Emmett Till was killed in Mississippi. I was 18 years old. I'm 88 today. So, I mean, I'm 88, not today, but I'm 88. But anyway, I just wanted to get that on that Emmett Till was killed in Mississippi 70 years ago.
Okay.
So the information that you're getting out is really, really, what can I say? The things that went on. So anyway, I'm not going to hold you.
Okay.
Life is good for me, and we want to. And I like your station, your program, because it's you help people to live better, and with information you can live better.
Mm-hmm.
And we got to get that crap out of the White House.
Yes, indeed.
So I'll talk to you shortly.
All right. Thank you, sir.
All right.
Talk to you later. Let me go back to something, too, that I know, that I paid attention to, that I thought was a good idea, and I want to know what you think about it today. When you started talking about having enough police officers, one of the things that you supplemented with the police officers and knowing how to have, I guess, some type of cohesiveness through it, because we got a lot of police in this city. It's not just NOPD. You got police officers from Tulane, Delgado, UNO. You got all these different police officers. They have to go through the training. They post-certified. They can stop and pull people over. And when something happens, these university police, just like Xavier do, they pull you over. They do a whole bunch of things. One of the things I remember that I thought was one of the best ideas, and I want you to talk about this, was putting together, and what did you have to go through by putting this together? Because one of the things you put together was doing, I guess, some type of issue where you would sit down with those police officers, those uniforms,
we commissioned
and give them a section of town that they also could patrol.
Yeah. So when I was chief, when we were trying to recover from the 300 or 400 officers that we lost in the aftermath of Hurricane Katrina, we reached out to Xavier, to SUNO, to Dillard, to Tulane University, University of New Orleans, and Xavier, and met with their leadership and asked if we gave them commissions, because they were all post-certified. They went through all the required training. If they would be willing to allow them to patrol 3 to 4 blocks around their college campuses. And all of them did. And it made all the difference in the world. That meant less calls for us to handle, and as we were trying to rebuild the numbers of NOPD. So they may have only been handling 6 or 8% of the calls, but that freed us up, right, to respond more quickly while we were recruiting and rebuilding NOPD. That stayed in place, and I believe the chief after me got rid of it for whatever reason. But that was his prerogative.
Surpass.
That was his prerogative.
Surpass?
That chief's prerogative.
He was after you, right?
You know better than me.
Let me go to Kevin. Kevin.
Hey, man, first of all, I'd like to always, man, thank y'all for having the conversations y'all having, because if you notice, no one else is having. I just want to say, look, I've been in, I've had a lot of hats that I've wore, and one of them was to advise police officers what they could and couldn't do with some suspects. Okay, really, it was protocol. And some of the police officers were more scarier than the convicts. I've been threatened by them in a tacit kind of way. I've seen some of these young men that they pick up off the street, beaten just so horribly. I mean, all their teeth broken out in their mouth. And now, don't get me wrong, sometimes you have to do something to get certain people's attention. So police have a tough job I would not want to do. So I can't, look, that's a special person who wants to be a police. So I don't want y'all to think that I'm going to say something about the police force in general, but they do have some monsters in every category of society. But I just want to say this. If we really want to solve this problem, we like to talk about culture. Culture is a standard of behavior of the people who living within a certain proximity to each other. And if we don't start talking with each other and supporting each other, just like the young man you have on the program right now, who's uncomfortable. I'm gonna say uncomfortable because he's not saying certain things that you keep on prompting him to say. If we start supporting each other, then those of us who have the courage to at least come on this program would have full courage to know that they're going to be supportive no matter what information they divulge to the public, that we have a right to know if we're going to correct it. It's like a drug addict. If you're not willing to accept what you are, how can you fix it? So we need people that's going to be willing to say what it is so we can address what it really is and hold people accountable, even though they may have passed. But the bottom line is this. They're going to come back into play, maybe under a different name or a different player, but that sociopathic mentality of a leader is what's causing us to have these problems right now. And I say leader, but I mean those of us who either you're part of the solution or you're really part of the problem. Sometimes you got to be willing to say, look, and I've done this on too many occasions. I've left jobs, great jobs, because something about that job was toxic to the point of irredeemable. I couldn't fix it. And I knew if I stayed there, it would ruin me.
All right, Ken, we got to take our next break, brother. Appreciate your call. All right, more coming up, y'all. We got to take a break here.
AURN News.
Another shakeup within the administration, this time at the nation's top public health agency. CDC Director Susan Monarez was abruptly fired after refusing to resign under pressure from the Trump administration. Her lawyers say she refused to, quote, rubber stamp unscientific, reckless directives pushed by Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy, who is a vaccine skeptic. Well, within hours, at least 4 senior CDC leaders resigned in protest. The leaders were experts in immunization, respiratory diseases, and infectious breakouts, people who've led America through pandemics and measles flare-ups. The firings come weeks after a gunman attacked CDC headquarters in Atlanta, killing a police officer. Public health experts warn these departures could leave the country more vulnerable to outbreaks. Former Biden-era CDC Director Dr. Mandy Cohen called it a devastating blow. For these stories and more, go to AURN.com or follow me across social media at Ebony McMorris.
It's Off the Top with Norman Robinson on WBOK 1230 AM.
The indictment of our mayor, LaToya Cantrell, of course, is a black eye for the city of New Orleans. The indictment reverberated across the country, even making international headlines. The mayor's fall from grace has generated mixed reactions from citizens and political leaders. Some are sympathetic. Incredibly, others appear to gloat. Some have been serving up jokes and sarcastic emojis on social media. I have no interest or use for the jokes and the sarcasm. You can miss me with that. I take no solace in the downfall of our mayor. I am saddened for Cantrell and her family, especially her teen daughter, and for the citizens of New Orleans. Mayor Cantrell is the first New Orleans mayor to be indicted while still in office. That, of course, shines a negative light on the Crescent City. The federal indictment alleges that Mayor Cantrell and her bodyguard, police officer Jeffrey Vappy, engaged in an intimate and romantic affair using taxpayer dollars to hide their opportunities to get to know each other better, then lying to federal investigators and the grand jury about it. If true, this represents a sordid tale of indiscretion and poor judgment, which in and of itself is not a crime. Some have criticized the indictment, saying it's an overreach on the part of federal prosecutors. They argue that the feds are simply trying to punish the mayor for having sex with one of her police bodyguards while married to other people. Prosecutors say the case is not about romance and sex. The evidence, photographs and text messages that they say prove a willful conspiracy to hide the relationship. Cantrell now faces 11 counts of fraud, conspiracy, and obstruction related to the time that she and police bodyguard Jeffrey Vappy spent together using taxpayer dollars to fund their travel and official city clock time when they were actually sharing personal activities. In the end, though, it all boils down to how this will play out before a jury. Which scenario are jurors likely to believe? The verdict must be unanimous. Is it criminal conduct or just a case about sex? This is Norman Robinson off the top.
Missed a show? Want to hear that guest everyone's talking about? WBOK is now streaming on all your favorite podcast apps. Just search WBOK Media, hit download, share with a friend, and don't forget to rate your favorite shows 5 stars. Because when our voices are heard, our impact grows.
Are you passionate about community safety and police accountability? Tune in to The Monitor's Mic, where we talk about oversight, policing, and you. Hosted by the Office of Independent Police Monitor, we're here to shine a light on policing issues that matter, from real-time policing updates to in-depth interviews. Get the facts and stay informed. We're breaking down complex issues, highlighting community voices, and holding people behind the badge accountable. Join us for an informative hour every Friday at noon on WBOK. Your city, your police, your show. The Monitor's Mic. Got unpaid parking or camera tickets in New Orleans? Here's some good news. Through August 31st, you can take care of them without paying late fees. That's money back in your pocket. Just go to NOLA.gov/no late fees to see what you owe. You can pay all at once or sign up for a payment plan and break it into monthly payments at no extra cost. That's NOLA.gov/no late fees. NOLA.gov/no late fees. Don't miss out. This offer ends August 31st.
The Historic New Orleans Collection presents a new exhibition open through June 7th, 2026, The Trail They Blazed. Built collaboratively with people who participated in the local civil rights movement, The Trail They Blazed presents stories of social and racial justice straight from the people who lived them. Listen to leaders tell their stories of resistance and persistence in their own voices, recorded by the Historic New Orleans Collection. Plan your visit to 520 Royal Street in the French Quarter and reserve your free tickets at hnoc.org today.
Hello, I'm Gary Clark. Please tune in to Dr. Clark 101, The Living Classroom, which is broadcasted weekly, every Wednesday at 12:30 p.m. on WBOK 12:30 a.m. on your dial. And as always, it's been a pleasure.
This week marks 20 years since Hurricane Katrina. New Schools for New Orleans honors the strength of our city, our educators, and our students. Join us as we reflect, celebrate progress, and recommit to ensuring each child in New Orleans thrives.
Hey, Pontchartrain Park. Thanks for listening to WBOK.
Here we go. The reality check on WBOK 12:30 a.m.
All right, folks, welcome back. A couple of more minutes here before we get out. Our guest today, former chief of NOPD, Warren Riley, in the building, y'all, having some conversation about Hurricane Katrina. Tomorrow, sir, your ex-boss is going to be with us. I know you talked about him somewhat in this, I want to call it political season, because I can't get you involved in no politics.
He's not running for office.
Well, he's not running for office, but I wanted to ask you, you know, all the stuff that came out during that time, what did you feel?
You know, all I can tell you is about the man that I work with and the man that I know. You know, especially in the midst of Katrina, his compassion and dedication to the men and women, not only NOPD, every city worker. He wanted to make sure people got paid. He set up a system where they would get automatic checks, whatever their regularly bi-monthly check was. He made sure that they got paid every 2 weeks when they were out of town. In the immediate aftermath, nobody ever missed a check because he knew people were struggling. They went all over the country. They needed their money. he made sure they got paid. He was concerned about the health and welfare. After about 3 weeks, he made arrangements with the mayor of Atlanta, the mayor of, I believe, Las Vegas, and began flying first responders out for free. They were, I don't know how they got the planes. They had major airlines were flying our first responders to, you had a choice to go to Atlanta for a week or go to Las Vegas for a week, right? To recoup, right? After this horrific event. That kind of passion meant a lot. Like I said, we got raises. The person that I know, I have a lot of respect for. I enjoy working for him. He's a solid individual who tried to do what was right. That other stuff, one, I was living away when all of that happened, but that's in the past, and everybody just has to move on.
This has been a city that has hollered, screamed, and shouted from the rooftop of second chances.
Mm-hmm.
And
for some people.
And that's where I was going to get to. I was like, do you think that has been reverberating in our community for everyone?
Listen, nothing's absolute. Nothing is ever absolute, no matter who says it and what they say. It only applies to certain people. Now, who those certain people are and who benefits for that depends on who you are, who you know, where you're from, what you have, what you don't have. That's just how the society works. Mm-hmm. Nothing is for everybody, right? And so if you expect anything in this world to be fair, then you're fooling yourself.
Do political people ask you all the time what your thought is on some of these races?
Occasionally.
Mm-hmm. Do you not answer?
It depends on who asks.
Well, I'm asking.
I might tell you one thing, and I might tell somebody else. It depends on who asks. It's politics. I mean, look. One thing I've learned is having integrity is one thing. You can't be totally honest with everybody.
You can't.
You can't. You can't. Especially in a political environment. Mm-hmm.
Would you run for something?
Not a chance. And
no?
Way. No. I like my little private, quiet life.
You wouldn't run for nothing?
Nothing.
Why not? I was waiting for the remaining of the answer. That was like ...
Look, for those who run, I admire them. I think some people are built for it. I ran for office once. It was a great experience. I lost the sheriff's race, which was a blessing because I was a police chief a few months later, right? So everything that doesn't go your way is not necessarily bad. You don't know what's down the road.
What's next about the book? Is there a book number 2?
Yeah, I am working on the second book, and I'm still working on getting this book out. Had a couple of little hiccups. But let me say this: the book has been out about a year with no advertisement. I think it's over 530 something copies that have been sold. I think 75 books were sold in Germany, another 50 in London, and 300 and something in the United States, and that's just by word of mouth, right? So I've changed the company that I was publishing with. I've gotten rid of them, and I'm working with some local people now. So we're continuing to work with it, and we've never really pushed it the way we should have. We planned on pushing it for this anniversary, but we ran into a couple of minor hiccups. But the book, for the most part, has done okay. And when I really get it out there, I think it'll take off.
Can people order it?
Yeah, they can order it. You can go to it's on
Amazon.
It's on Amazon. Was it KDP? And it's also at ChiefWarrenRiley.com.
Very good. Thank you for coming.
You're welcome. Thanks for the invite.
And tomorrow, if you want to come back and have some conversation, just know that your former boss is going to be the guest.
That's his spot, his time.
Yeah.
I'll be listening.
I did an interview one time before with both of y'all in studio. I'll never forget that. That was like one of the best interviews that got both of y'all in. Mm-hmm. You on that side and he was on that side. Mm-hmm. So good. All right, folks, that's going to wrap things up for us. Arnie and Carrie coming up next to take you into the nighttime. We will see you on tomorrow.
At WBOK1230.com.